Hi there, I'm your host Cory McKane, and I want to welcome you to the In Fitness and in Health podcast, the best podcast out there for, well, everything fitness and health. We'll be interviewing all sides of the health and wellness world, industry experts from celebrity personal trainers, all the way to some of the leaders of the biggest fitness tech companies on the planet. We're going to be diving deep into the corners of fitness to get a better understanding of the ins and outs of the body, the mind, and the business of fitness. This podcast is absolutely sponsored by WeStrive. WeStrive is the world's #1 platform for health and wellness professionals, including personal trainers, nutritionists, yoga instructors, and the like. Head to WeStriveApp.com and use promo code podcast50, that's podcast50, to get 50% off your first 2 months after your free trial. Now, let's get started with this week's podcast. Where did you say you were based again?
Kind of a nomad. I haven't had actually an apartment for like 6 months or so, but actually this morning I got an apartment in New York, so I'll be based there going forward.
Nice. Wait, where are you at like right now today?
Right now I'm in Massachusetts.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
I've actually never been. I went to the East Coast for the first time this year in Florida. I've never been to like New York, any of that stuff. So,
really, you've never been to the East Coast before?
Prior to this year, yeah. I'm a West Coast guy. Like wow. I was in LA and I grew up in Washington State, and like I just never really had anything crazy pulling me. Like now I have like kind of New York connections that'll get me over there. But I mean, I was just like, I'm not going to book a flight just to go see the not Eiffel Tower, the Statue of Liberty, Empire State Building, all that stuff. So, wasn't a priority, but I'll be there soon. But also, man, happy to have you on the podcast. I was checking out your website, absolutely beautiful, and the product seems great. Can't wait to try it someday. So can you give the audience a quick description on who you are and what your company does?
Yeah, sure. My name's James Oliver. I'm the CEO and founder of Atlas Bar. We make nutrition bars that are better for your mind and your body. So over the past few decades, the #1 consumer health concern in the country has really been weight management, like since the 70s. Mm-hmm. And that actually changed last year when COVID hit and mental health became the #1 consumer health concerns. And now the #1 and 2 consumer health concerns are mental health and weight management. Mm-hmm. And our product is one of the only products that you can get that actively supports both mental and physical health. And all ingredients we use are backed by science. I knew I was going to be consuming these more than anybody else, so I wanted to make sure that anything we use was completely legitimate and vetted by actual research.
That's awesome. How many of your own bars would you say you have a day?
A day? It definitely varies by day. Some days I run out and I don't have any, like when I'm traveling. But I've had thousands, easily thousands and thousands of them. Yeah.
Well, and you're still alive and you look great. So we'll start there. We'll just keep going up. So I didn't even take chemistry in high school. Science is just so boring to me. So like for me, I could say describe your bars to the dumbest person in the science world, and that's basically saying describe your bars to me. Like, what does it mean as far as like from a mental standpoint? Like, how do you guys help mental health through your product?
Yeah, it's a great question. So we have a active ingredient called Ashwagandha, and Ashwagandha is a really cool ingredient. It's very difficult to pronounce. Took me a while to get my mouth around it, but it has over 1,200 studies that have been done on it. So it's actually one of the most studied ingredients on the market, and it's been used in India for over 5,000 years. So there's a long history of usage, but there's also a mountain of modern research to support its benefits. And primarily what it's been used for and what research has shown that it does is it reduces stress. It actually reduces stress at a chemical level and increases feelings of well-being. And there are countless studies, some that are pretty incredible in terms of what the changes are that happen over a certain period of time consuming ashwagandha. So one I can think of off the top of my head It was a 6-week study, and participants at the end who had consumed ashwagandha versus those who had consumed a placebo saw a reduction in symptoms of depression or depressive symptoms by up to 79%, which is pretty staggering.
That's awesome. And so I usually would save this for the end of the podcast, but now I'm very interested. So like, where can I get one of these? Like, where do we order one at?
Yeah, so the majority of our customers, they get the bars from online. So we've sold millions of bars online through Amazon, our own website, which is atlasbars.com. And this year we actually launched into retail. So we're now in about 1,500 retail locations across the country. Our largest account is Sprouts Farmers Market, which
awesome.
is Southwest Florida. And then we're actually going to be launching into Stop and Shop, which has about 400 locations in New England, and that's going to be happening in September. So
that's so
getting
cool.
Available to more and more people every single day.
That's incredible. I mean, landing an account like Sprouts is insane. I have buddies that have like, consumer products as well, and like just some of them are in companies like that, and some of them aren't. I just know like it's a crazy hustle to get in there because there's so much competition. So, props to you guys right off the bat. And then back to the study thing. So, do you guys do individual studies on like once you compile all the ingredients, do you do studies on that, or like are you going to do that soon? Is that a requirement? Like, how does that process work?
No, so there's no requirement to do that. That's actually something that I really do want to do. You usually have to work with like a research institution to do it, and they're pretty expensive to do. They're like tens of thousands of dollars at the minimum. And I know that there are some products that have done it, and like one that I can think of off the top of my head is by the company On It. And they have a product called Alpha Brain, and I believe they did a study specifically on their product to show its benefits. And I would love to do something similar with Atlas bars, but we're not at that point yet. But I think that's kind of like a next level thing for a brand to do if they really feel strongly about their product and its efficacy.
Yeah, exactly. Especially if you're confident that like the study's going to go well.
Yeah.
So how do you feel about the current state? Because we talked about how the general population has like these two goals they want to accomplish with like health and mental. And then how do you feel about the fitness industry as a whole, like right now, especially after COVID? Like, do you see the industry moving anywhere? Maybe you can touch on the specific nutrition industry. Like, where do you kind of see it at right now?
I think overall there is a movement in a direction that I think is positive holistically, both from a movement like fitness and nutrition standpoint. I think it's unfortunate that COVID had to be the catalyst for it, but it's clear in the data that we've seen that people are caring a lot more and paying a lot more attention to their health and wellness and nutrition because of COVID than they were before. And so I think that means people are going to be spending, it does mean that people are spending more money, more time, more energy on their own health, which I think is awesome. And I absolutely love that. But again, I think it's unfortunate that like COVID had to be the reason why a lot of people were forced to do that.
Yeah, and I think like everything from people just washing their hands more in general, or maybe like adding the birthday song to it, or just I have a lot of buddies that are losing weight, like that needed to lose weight basically. That I don't think they would have done it had COVID not been a thing. I think it was a big like wake up call, but obviously like super unfortunate that like it had to happen at the same time. What is your background? Do you have a background in like fitness and nutrition? Like, were you a trainer? Were you like some scientist? Like, what's your background in all that?
No, I'm not a scientist. I have a degree in economics, so nothing to do with.
I have my accounting degree, same boat. Just like I don't know. It's just like exactly.
Yeah. So nothing to do with science or nutrition or fitness. But I also am a certified sports nutritionist, and the school that I went to didn't have, even though they have a phenomenal graduate program in nutrition, they had no formal undergraduate degree, but I absolutely would have gotten one in nutrition if they did. I've always been super passionate about nutrition. Goes really back to like one of my earliest memories where my parents told me that if you eat carrots, it'll improve your eyesight. And so when they told me that, I was like 4 years old, and I ate all the carrots I could get a hold of in our house. And I actually thought that doing so would give me like supervision. I thought there was a linear relationship between number of carrots eaten and how good your eyesight
Checks out.
becomes. Unfortunately, I learned that's not quite how it works, but that really like planted the seed in my head that what we eat can dramatically improve what we're able to do both mentally and physically. And I think I think it's just so cool because there's so many things like in the world and in your life that you don't have control over, but you do have control over the food that you're putting into your body. And if that food can help you think better, move better, feel better, I just think that's such a cool concept.
Yeah, I think there's so many levels to it too. Like last summer, I was counting calories, eating healthy, and I felt 1,000%. I looked better than I've ever looked in my life. I'm kind of still trying to do that, but like definitely a process to do it. But I mean, products like yours definitely make that a lot easier. Um, and then when it comes to like the bar itself, like when you're like, how does the nutrition world work? Like, 'cause I obviously can't just go, here's my protein bar, come buy it. Like, is there what regulations do you have to meet? Do you have to go to some center to get it approved? Like, how do you go from like experimenting at home to now it's in Sprouts? Like, what is that process?
Yeah, it's quite a process. So there are two paths you can kind of take when you are starting out with a food product and you're making it in your own home. You can't make food in your home and sell it because there are regulations and there are government agencies that don't let you do that. So you can either go find a co-man who will, you give your formula and you work with them and they help you make your formula, or you can go find a commercial kitchen, which is a audited space that has all of the necessary equipment and all of the necessary certifications to make and sell food. And I remember making that decision early on and thinking hard about that. And I ended up going the former route because I wanted to find a manufacturing partner that could scale with us. And I knew myself that I was not a manufacturer and I didn't have any expertise in that. So I wanted to leave that to them so I could focus on the brand building. But you absolutely can do it both ways. There are successful brands that have been built by going both ways. So when you do go the co-manufacturer route, which is I think the more common route because most people don't know how to manufacture food. Most of the time that co-manufacturer, they're going to take care of all of those regulations. They're going to have a compliance team to check and make sure that the information you're saying on the nutrition label, it actually matches up with the product. At the end of the day, though, it does come back to the brand. It's completely on the brand to make sure that all of that information is accurate. The FDA, I believe it operates similar to the IRS, where like only 1% of brands will ever get actually audited. So there's not a high chance that you will get your nutrition facts like checked out by the FDA. I think an exception to that is if a bunch of consumers complain or it's brought to the attention of the FDA somehow. But I think that actually is a bit of an issue in the industry because what you see on the label is not necessarily what you're getting in the product because there is no formal board or agency that you have to bring your formula to and say these are the nutrition facts. It's basically on the discretion of the brand to put those numbers there.
That is crazy that like people could technically just be like, this is what's on there. And then like small chance they get audited and then just nothing, they just keep doing it. You know what I mean? That's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's the same thing with like the personal training industry. Like you could get the worst cert on the planet and then go like kill someone in the gym because they dropped the barbell on their head because they're exhausted. Like you didn't know what you were doing. So I think, I guess every industry kind of has that flaw to an extent. And when you go to these manufacturers, are you just also side note, I would never want to deal with manufacturing. So I would do the same thing. I can't imagine the headache of like, okay, I think we do this. Now we ship it and package like this is crazy. So good choice. The second thing was, do you just give them a secret formula ingredients list and then they just buy all the ingredients or like how does that actually product get made?
Yeah, it can go a few ways. You can just give them your formula. Everybody signs NDAs to make sure that formulas are sent to your competitor or sold on the street. It's funny because in the food industry, really you can't really patent a recipe or a formula like the Coca-Cola recipe. It's not actually patented. Like if you had it, you would be able to make it and produce it yourself. You definitely have to give them the formula because they need that in order to make the product. And in terms of buying the ingredients, you can either do it yourself or they can do it for you. If they do it for you, they're probably going to charge you something extra for doing it. But because they're usually buying for other products as well, they're probably going to get better prices on ingredients than you would get yourself. So,
and way less of a headache for you too.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's a headache because usually, we have over 30 ingredients total that we have to source, and if we're doing all of that ourselves, that means that we have to order from 30 separate vendors, and we have to coordinate all of the different ingredients coming at the right time. And we just have one product. We just have protein bars. So if you think about that with a company that has like 50 products, you just multiply those 50 products by like 15 ingredients each, and you can see how quickly it gets out of hand.
Yeah, that's crazy. I mean, especially starting off, letting them handle it, and then like eventually increasing your margins, maybe do it yourself, you get some deals, fly them in from like Norway or something. I don't even know how it works, but but that's definitely the best way to do it though for starters. I mean, I can't imagine doing that crap yourself. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Good choice. Very cool. And so because your bars are all keto, or some of them are keto?
No, so all of them are keto, and that's based on the net carbs in the bars. So the total carbs are around 20 grams each in the bars, and net carb is the way we calculate it is we subtract out all the fiber because the fiber isn't digestible by your body. It just passes through your system. And then we also subtract out allulose, which we don't use a ton of, but allulose, if you're not aware, it's a rare form of sugar, and it's actually naturally found in pears and a few other fruits, but it's the first technical sugar ever that the FDA has said you do not have to include on the nutrition facts label as a sugar because it's so unique. And it's unique because it has very few calories. Basically, it does not impact blood glucose levels at all, but also has the same like sweetness as sugar. So it's kind of like, it's almost like a miracle ingredient, and we're going to see a lot more of it. I think it's going to become like a ubiquitous ingredient in the next few years, but it's just kind of at the beginning of an adoption phase for it. Like Chobani is one of the first companies that I've seen incorporate it into a large brand. Like Chobani, they just rolled out allulose sweetened yogurt, I think like a month or two ago. And I think you're going to see a lot more of that in years to come. So yeah, we subtract out fiber, allulose, and then also vegetable glycerin, which is similar to fiber, where it has very negligible impact on blood glucose, if any. And that leaves us with somewhere between 3 and 5 net carbs per bar. And I did research on the keto diet back in 2016 while I was still in school, before the keto diet became what it is, because I was really interested in it because I'd heard of it, and I was training for a 70.3 Ironman at the time, and I had heard that a high fat, low carb diet could be beneficial for endurance. So I decided to do a research paper on it. And from all the research that I looked at, basically being ketosis, you need to have 50 grams of net carbs a day or less in order to maintain ketosis. So the 3 to 5 grams that are in an Atlas bar are well within that framework.
That's insane. I mean, I'm pumped that I just learned you said allulose. What is it called?
Yeah, allulose. Yeah.
Allulose. Okay, I'm pumped that I learned that. So, I mean, a few things off those things you just said. So, first thing was, and I can't think of the name. What is the sugar alternative in like Diet Coke and stuff like that? Aspartame.
Aspartame. Right? Yeah.
So, what is allulose and aspartame? How do we compare those two?
Yeah. So there's a few different types of sweeteners. There are things called non-nutritive sweeteners, and those are basically sweeteners that have 0 calories in them. So that would be aspartame is one of them. Aspartame is chemically derived, and I don't think there's any definitive evidence linking aspartame to diseases, but there's some, I think, like kind of circumstantial evidence where
it's a little
possible.
Yeah,
yeah, exactly. And then there are other non-nutritive sweeteners like monk fruit and stevia, which I'm sure you heard of, and those are naturally derived. Like monk fruit, stevia, those are both plants, and those sweeteners are basically just like dehydrated powders of those plants, but they have no calories in them. And then allulose is actually more similar. So it is a sugar. So it's very similar to like table sugar from how it looks and how it tastes. But just the way it's metabolized, it has very unique properties. That means it does not get metabolized at all like sugar, and it doesn't impact your blood glucose and has far fewer calories than actual sugar does. So allulose is more like a sugar, and aspartame is more like a monk fruit or stevia.
So would you say like allulose would be the healthiest, then stevia, and then I don't know why I did this when I did that, but why would you say like allulose is like the healthiest, and then stevia, and then like aspartame kind of thing?
Yeah, I mean, I would put aspartame probably at the bottom, just because when you look at allulose and stevia, there aren't like any studies that show any connections with any negative health effects. And they're actually, for stevia and monk fruit at least, there are a bunch of studies that show that consuming it could actually be beneficial for health. But aspartame has none of that and has a bunch of studies showing the opposite. So I would put aspartame at the bottom, and I think I would probably put like most chemically derived sweeteners at the bottom. Another one is sucralose. Sucralose is pretty common, and sucralose is the way it's made. Actually, is they chlorinate table sugar. Like that's how you chemically make sucralose. So chlorine plus sugar equals sucralose, and chlorine and sugar are two things that are not great for human consumption. So difficult to see how something like sucralose would be. So in terms of ranking those sweeteners, I mean, I would put something like a monk fruit or stevia probably at the top, because there are no calories associated with it, and there are actually some proven health benefits of consuming them. And then something like allulose, I would put a little below that, because even though it's much better for you than sugar, it still is a sugar.
Gotcha. Okay. And I used to put stevia on my coffee, so it's good to know that it's not like, aspartame. Because when I look at stevia, I think of aspartame. So that's good to know.
Yeah, it's really funny actually how most people have that perception around stevia. We actually used to use stevia in the bars, but I kind of saw that in the market, a lot of people think for some reason that stevia is an artificial sweetener or like a fake sugar. And so they avoid it for that reason, even though it is completely naturally derived. But because I saw that, I was like, let's switch it to monk fruit. So we switched to monk fruit instead, which has a much more positive perception, and actually I think has a better sweetness profile too. Stevia is pretty sharp, whereas monk fruit's a little bit more like rounded.
Yeah, and I mean, it'd be impossible to re-educate the entire market. Like honestly, because if something tastes good and it's healthy for you, that doesn't make sense. So like whenever I put stevia in my coffee, I'm like, I'm putting aspartame in my coffee. That's all I would think. So that's good to know that I wasn't doing that, and I might actually switch back to doing stevia because I got used to it. Even though it tastes kind of gross, I got used to it. So, but to clarify, so a keto diet is basically like low carb. Like, is there any other elements really to it, or is that kind of the main gist?
Yeah, I would say keto is a segment of low carb. You can do low carb without being keto. Keto is short for ketosis. And I don't know if most people know this or realize this, but ketosis is a metabolic state that your body actually enters into. And it's when your body, instead of using glucose as its primary fuel, it's using ketone bodies as its primary fuel. And in order to actually achieve that state, you have to basically empty your body of all of its glucose and glycogen so that your body's forced to burn this other fuel, which are ketones. But it usually takes like anywhere from like 1 to 3 days to make that happen, of eating like virtually no carbs. And most people, in my opinion, who are eating like quote unquote keto aren't actually in ketosis. They're actually just eating a low carb diet.
Gotcha. Okay. That's good. See, I learned like 20 things already. We're like halfway. And so what makes your guys' bars different or better? Like in your opinion, or in your whatever your brand would say, like what is your guys' thing that would set you apart from other bars?
Yeah. So the first thing is the taste and texture. It's funny because when I was starting out, I prioritized like functionality and the quality of the ingredients. And exactly. I was like, taste doesn't really matter because I don't really care that much about taste when I'm eating products, as long as it's really healthy for me. Yeah. So I learned quickly that most people do really care about taste, and most people actually consume things primarily for their taste. So
Mhm.
I started to really formulate the products around how good they taste, and now they taste unbelievable. The one that I have with me right here, it's almond chocolate chip, but it tastes like a chocolate chip cookie.
I love that.
It's really good. And the rest of them too, we try to make them taste like things that people recognize, even though the names are a little more like exotic. So, for example, chocolate cacao, that's the first flavor that we ever came out with, but it essentially tastes like a brownie. So taste and texture is number one, because I'm sure you've had a number of protein bars that don't taste great. They taste
Exactly.
like sawdust. That was when I was starting out. In order to like motivate myself, if I was feeling down, I would go to the protein bar section, get like a few bars of other
The
brands,
shittiest bar. Yeah.
and I would just be like, if this product can sell, there's absolutely no reason why Atlas bars can't.
Yes.
So I would do that like in the early days. So yeah, taste and texture is number one. The macros are virtually no sugar in the product, just 1 gram in most of the bars, 15 grams of grass-fed whey protein. The quality of the ingredients, we don't use anything chemical, nothing artificial. And then also that mindfulness piece where you have that functional ingredient that's giving you an additional benefit beyond just calories, protein, healthy fats.
Dude, I love that so much because we basically have the exact same experience, but I'm on tech and you're on CPG. So like the whole user experience thing, like I would go, no, they're not going to worry about, like, for example, we didn't focus on our mobile website because I'm like, they're going to be on their computers. Like, let's focus on their computer. And we launched first app last year, and just like everyone, it was like 70% mobile usage, and it just did not even function. And I was like, ah, crap. And then the second thing you said about how like you would go test out the shittier companies, basically. I did the same thing. I'm like, I'll go to our competitors that are like the worst competitors, and I'll be like, if these guys can make money, then why am I not making that much money? So then we grow. So I'm the exact same boat.
Yeah, it's counterintuitive because it's pretty motivating to do that. Like one of the most common questions I've gotten is like, it's such a competitive space. How do you stand out? And I actually view the competition as a good thing, because when there's that much competition, then you know that there's substantial demand for the
Exactly.
product. And also, just because there's competition does not at all mean that there's quality competition.
That's true. Exactly. Like we've got some pretty bad competitors. We have some good competitors. We have some really
Yeah.
bad competitors though. Like I've
Yeah.
had some pretty decent keto bars, and I've had some that I'm like, I will never put this in my mouth again. So what are the keys to growth that you've experienced so far? Like how do you go? I mean, obviously partnerships is massive. So like Sprouts, we'll just kind of count that one out because that's obvious. But like growing your online, because you're running an online business basically. So like
Yeah.
how have you gotten people to hit your website, or using landing pages, email campaigns? Like what are you guys doing for that?
Yeah, in my opinion, the most important thing for growth is making sure customers just absolutely love you. And you can really prove this with an equation, and that's like customer retention. The more customers you retain, the faster you're going to grow, because you're going to acquire customers at some rate, and you have a certain number of customers in your base. And the customers that you retain, that's how big your base is going to stay over time. And the more customers you retain, the fewer you have to acquire in order to grow. But for instance, if you're only retaining like 10% of your customers, that means for every 100 customers you acquire, you only have 10 that are actually staying. So you're losing 90 customers for every 100 you acquire. So making sure that customers really love the product and that you're treating them well, that's been something that I've focused on a ton myself. I've answered, I don't even know how many customer tickets personally. And I ran customer support myself for like 3 years, because
Same.
it's so important. And there are so many instances where somebody would write in, they would be disappointed or upset or angry. And just taking 1 to 2 minutes to write a thoughtful reply and actually treating them like humans and like acknowledging their frustration, listening to them and doing something about it completely changed them. And they became actual advocates for the brand. And I think that if you can do that enough and you do that sustainably, then you develop that word of mouth marketing that is the most powerful type of marketing. Like if your friend tells you, like, dude, you got to check this out, that's way more powerful than hearing any podcast advertisement, any Facebook ad, any billboard. Word of mouth is definitely the most powerful. So that's something that we really focus hard on. And if you look at the most successful companies in the world, like Apple, I think Apple's lifetime retention rate is like 99%, because you get caught in the Apple ecosystem and you just can't leave because you don't want to be that person that has the green bubble in the group chat. So exactly. Apple they get you in there and nobody ever leaves. So they grow extremely quickly and profitably because they don't really have to acquire that many customers in order to do so.
I love that. Yeah, I mean, good customer service is the number one way for sure. Like word of mouth is so powerful. And with that being said, like talking about like business stuff, talking about business, I feel like I'm like 4 years old. Talking about business. So typically a CPG brand is just going to just have a one-off sale and then like hopefully they come back. But you guys actually have an MRR model with your subscription. So like, how did that come about? How's that going? And can you break down what the subscription is?
Yeah, sure. So yeah, the majority of the sales that we do through our website are on subscription. And early on, I realized that the product we had was kind of perfect for a subscription model. Most subscriptions, besides like SaaS tech subscriptions, are consumables, things that you consume and then you need to replenish. And bars are like a perfect example of that, especially because they're pretty easy to ship. Like there are other things that are also consumables, but because they're heavy, it doesn't really make sense from a unit economic standpoint. Like beverages, for instance, super heavy, which means it's really costly to ship them. So yeah, we've really focused on building that experience, but building an experience that really works for you, because a lot of companies, they just make a subscription model in order to extract as much money as possible from customers. And we really want to make a model that customers feel really flexible in. They can toggle on and off whenever they want to. We make it extremely easy to cancel or delay or skip. All you got to do is send us a message and just say like cancel, and we just say no problem. Here you go. You're all set. We don't try to lock people into anything that they haven't agreed to. A lot of customers, we've learned, are super wary of subscriptions because they've had so many negative experiences with different brands online who take advantage of them by saying in the fine print, like you have to have a minimum of 3 months subscription in order to sign up for this. And people feel burned and they just feel it leaves a bad taste in your mouth. So we want to be the exact opposite of that. And we've curated a really unique experience where customers can actually build their own box on our website. Nice. And that we are the first in the industry to do that, and still one of the only ones that have that. But the reason we wanted to do that was because when you go into a store and you're buying bars or you're buying most foods, you're not buying like 15 of a single pack. You're buying like one of this flavor, 2 of that flavor. And we wanted to replicate that experience online. So it took a significant investment on our part, both from a tech standpoint and a operation standpoint to make it happen. But the result is that you can completely customize a box of your own choice. And we have, I think, over like 200,000 possible combinations that you could create because It's completely customizable. And our customers, they absolutely love that. It definitely takes more work on our part to pull it off, but it's worth it because our customers really love it. And that's what's most important to us.
I love that. I'm going to have to go check out a box myself after the podcast, man. I got a lot of varieties in my flavor choices, so we'll see what we can get going. Can you give me a day in the life? Like, what is your like a typical wake up to go to bed timeline?
Yeah, so I usually wake up around 6, and then one of the first things I'll do is usually meditate immediately for like probably 15 minutes a day. I found it's just helpful just to kind of clear the mind. I used to wake up, do what most people do, I think. Just grab your phone, like start checking notifications, checking email.
Hey, well, don't call me out like that. Don't call me out like that.
It is tough to resist that. But I found that for me, if I do that, you immediately just start reacting to the day. So like if you open your inbox, you're just reacting automatically to the information that came in overnight. And starting off with something like meditation allows me to kind of be a little bit more intentional as I go throughout my day. And then always doing some kind of exercise, either running or body weight stuff. I'm a big fan of push-ups and pull-ups just because you can do them really anywhere without any equipment. And I've been traveling a good amount, so that's a huge perk. for me. And then usually I get down to work at about 8. I try to clear my calendar in the morning for the first 2 hours of the day, just so I can focus on like what I call like deep work. So like longer term focused projects that I want to have an uninterrupted time for. And then after that period from 10 onwards, I usually have meetings until like 5 p.m. or so. And then after 5 p.m., I'm working on all the stuff that I wasn't able to do when I'm in meetings. Probably stop working around 7 or so, and then get outside, do something social, read for a bit before I go to sleep at night, and probably am in bed at like 9:30 and asleep by 10.
There we go. Solid day. Yeah, mine, I need it. Like this morning, I was very tired. I give myself like an early morning to just like chill, and I was on TikTok for like 45 minutes. But usually, I'm up and I'm at the gym, ready to go. So I took a little bit of a morning off today. Um, so what is something that you want to tell our listeners? Like, go get Atlas bars. Like, let's get a subscription pack. Like, what's something like unique about your company? Like anything that you want to get out. Now's the time.
Yeah, I mean, we have a sample pack on our site. We have 2 versions of it. That's awesome for anybody that's just looking to try the product. One version of it's $10, and the other version is $15. The one that's 15 is just a one time, and the one that's 10 is it's basically a trial of the subscription that I described a minute ago. But we wanted to make a really easy, like cost-effective way for anybody to try the product. And I think again, we were one of the first in the space to create a sample pack. But yeah, we didn't want to have an entry price point of like $30-$40 or something that you had never tried before. So
Yeah.
if you haven't tried them, would definitely recommend giving them a shot. They're really unbelievable. They keep you full for an exceptionally long time. Like it feels almost weird how long you stay full for, like 3 to 4 hours easily. And actually most of our customers use it as a meal replacement because they are so satiating and filling. And you just feel better when you have them. You don't feel any crash. It's sustained energy, and you feel like you're making a healthy, positive choice for your body, that you're actually investing in yourself, which is always something that feels good.
That's incredible, man. I might become a lifer for this product because I buy the Costco like bulk shitty like peanut butter protein bar thingies, and I just like eat like 4 a day. It's so bad. I just like I can't help myself. The taste. I think I had 2 last night. Just last night. I was like, I'm hungry. I deserve one, and so it's like it's embarrassing. But anyways, I can't wait to try the sample pack. Where do you see? Sorry, Atlas Bar, Atlas Bars. To clarify, I know there's the plural of, but like, what do you guys go by officially?
It's a funny story. Our website is Atlas Bars, but we go by Atlas Bar. The reason that our website is Atlas Bars is because when I was starting out and I went to get the domain name for Atlas Bar, it was 20 grand. And so I just threw an S onto it, and atlasbars.com was 99 cents. So I picked that one up.
I feel like it's usually not that big of a drop in price. That's insane.
It was a big drop.
That you're like, let me think about this. Okay, gotcha. Okay. So where do you see Atlas Bar, aka atlasbars.com, in the next couple of years? Like, where are you guys' goals for growth?
Yeah, so we're looking to grow pretty aggressively over the next few years. Basically, we've been doubling year over year since I started the business in 2017, and we're looking to continue that trajectory over the next 3 years or so. So we're growing rapidly. We've more than doubled the size of the team this past year. We are expanding into probably 2,000 retail locations by the end of this year, which is up from 300 at the end of last year. And
awesome.
Our subscribers for this year have already tripled, if not more than that, from last year. So we're in all-out growth mode right now. But our goal is really to become a functional fitness brand that people can go to. We're starting with bars, and we'll probably stay in bars for the foreseeable future, but becoming a functional fitness brand that people can really trust. You can feel good about the ingredients that we're using in the products, and basically becoming the equivalent of what Gatorade was to the 20th century to the 21st century, a performance nutrition brand that helps you fuel all aspects of your lifestyle.
I love that, man. I'm literally order a bar right now. Can't wait. Thanks so much for coming on the podcast, James. I'll be sure to put all of your links and everything. People can go check you out in the podcast info, and have an awesome rest of your week, man.
Yeah, thank you. This was awesome. Really appreciate the time.
Absolutely, man.